This is the Forbes Books Podcast, conversations with amazing humans who are impacting the world of business and beyond. Hola, I'm Joe Pardavila, and much has been debated about the negative aspects of social media on today's society, but outside of government intervention, not much can be done with the current crop of platforms. However, our guests today don't plan on fixing the issue of social media, but rather reinventing it altogether. Tessa Adams and JT Swierczek are the co-founders of everle, a new networking platform with a goal to establish a safe and genuine environment where members can build authentic communities. They're going to share their visionary perspectives on redefining social networking, prioritizing user privacy and mental health, and fostering authentic community building in the digital age. Tessa, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And JT, my old friend, welcome as well.
How are you, Joe? It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm good. And Tessa, I want to start with you. I want to get all the dark cloud stuff out of the way, because immediately when people hear another social media, what? Are we trying to get rid of social media accounts? Are we trying to get our kids off it? Tell me, as the devil advocate who would come out to you and be like, Tessa, there's just way too many social media out there. You know, there's no need for another one. Tell me about that. What is your response to that?
Yeah, my response to that is, what we've built is really an online community building platform. And I even, in the beginning especially, hesitate to say social media, right? That implies that there's a media aspect to it, that we're trying to put on a show for people. And that's the complete opposite of what we've built and the ecosystem of everle. I think what helps give it a little bit of context is sort of why we began this journey. But I think that helps put into perspective what we've actually built.
All right, well, before we get to the journey, let's bring in JT and ask him. I know, JT, you're a Hollywood guy. You're a filmmaker. You're doing events. What are you doing in technology? How did you make that jump?
You know, that's a great darn question, Joe. No, I think, when it comes into media, obviously social media and that social connection is such a big thing no matter what, whichever, platform you're using, no matter what, we're kind of involved in it. But really what struck my chord when Tessa brought this to my attention is, one, I'm a huge mental health advocate. It's such a taboo subject, but I'm always an advocate for positive mental health. But at the same time, I asked my nieces, one of them being 13 at the time, what she wanted to be when she grew up, and she said an influencer. And wow, did that strike a nerve in me as a protective uncle. And I just thought, wow, this is kind of the thing we're kind of creating for young people, and we're kind of giving them aspirational goals that are probably not aligned with the right goals that I feel like they should be. So I immediately jumped in, and I know that a lot of people in my network feel the same way. They're starting to get to the age of having children. They're starting to think differently. It's not just about them anymore. And so I think the perfect storm of like, this is the time, this is the now. Finally, it was kind of like, there's so many people in San Francisco or in Silicon Valley and all these big tech giants, but like, why not us? Why not come from more of a guerrilla approach of like, go to the community, go to the neighborhoods, go to the people that are actually utilizing these platforms and see what they feel, see what they think, see what they need. And it just sounded like everyone needed this.
All right. So Tessa, what is the value proposition here? What is everle offering to folks?
So what we've built is a data private space that focuses on mental health and creating safe and authentic communities online. So a huge thing for us is we will never, ever share nor sell your data. It is 100% yours. You are fully protected on our platform. Everybody gets one account. There's one member per person. We offer mental health resources on demand. So at any time throughout your journey, you can choose our icon at any moment and access mental crisis resources that we vetted, as well as access to therapy via one of our third-party partners. But I think at the core of it, if you can get on a platform, you can instantly engage with your chosen community, as well as diverse communities that you may want to network with, and feel safe and protected. Wouldn't that be something? You can actually be yourself online and not be afraid.
We want to also be clear that social media itself is not bad. I think what it's doing is kind of bad, right? What it's used for is bad. So, Tessa and I thought, what if we just take the good parts of each thing so people don't feel like it's a completely different platform, but they see familiarity in each of the things. So when it comes to Instagram posting photos, but let's not do filters. Let's not like chase and try to get influence. Like, let's not do any of that, right? When it comes to, say, LinkedIn, which is a wonderful platform for connecting businesses, but there's a lot going on. Why can't we create gather groups that allow people that find like-minded people within a business community? So, I can go on and on and on about all the little, nuances and things that we can find, but really it comes to like, we want you to feel at home when you come here. You'll notice we use the word members instead of users, because users obviously infers an addictive personality, right? We want people to feel like this is their community and a safe space for them to just share photos, chat with their friends, create gather groups that may be private, create ones that maybe go out and search for, say, female entrepreneurs. We're going to go find a gather group and find like-minded community members that are there to support you.
I mean, I'm just getting, is it Reddit vibes? Am I reading this where there's like subgroups and stuff? And I'm not saying the dark side of Reddit. I'm just talking about how like there's niche groups within the platform. Is that something that everle will offer?
Yeah. So what we've built, they're called gather groups. So I think JT was alluding to it, but within our gather communities, you can either create groups, public or private groups around any topic. So, right now on the platform, we're in beta. We've been in the App Store since November. I'm an avid soul cycler. I have a soul cycle community group where we talk about classes we're going to take. We talk about instructors that we like. It could be anything like JT said, to female entrepreneurship, but I think also huge value add to mental health groups and moms talking about the struggles with their kids in school and actually engaging in real conversations across any topic that you want, where we can actually help people build community, engage in community, and affect change. They're real-time conversations happening, and they're with real people. So I think that that's a huge difference there. It's almost like that old school chat room feeling. Remember AOL Messenger? It's like that. Like you're live really talking and chatting with people and sharing about yourself and doing it in a space where you know that you're not being watched, which I think is really key. And in a mainstream area, that's not really happening.
And JT, like I said, you're the showbiz guy. Everle, why? What does that mean? What does the word everle mean?
Tessa kind of came up with ever you, ever me, everle. It doesn't actually mean anything, but we actually love how it rolls. It's just kind of doesn't have to have a full, deep meaning behind it. You know what I mean? And to us, it's kind of already created this community, aside from just trying to reach people in their everyday lives and not selling all their data. So they're not just getting advertisements and bots and all these things all the time. But, in this world, a lot of celebrities and a lot of people that have private accounts because, they can't just share their normal baby photos or they don't want to share those things. So why can't we just create a site where they absolutely can share that stuff with their family and be private and you can't search for them and they can actually feel like they have their anonymity? Is that the word?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's an important part of this town, but I really think that it can touch anyone from a small town and, the South all the way up to the glitz and glam of Hollywood. I think everyone just wants to feel connected again and wants to be able to share things without feeling like they're comparing themselves to everyone else.
All right. So they're not users. You're not selling data. How do you make money? Get the brass tacks of it all. How do you create capital from what you're doing?
We're subscription based. $4.99 a month. We wanted to make it super accessible, less than a cup of coffee, especially if you're here in LA with us. But with that, we can manage the platform, keep the community safe, and make sure that we curate a great environment for our members. And if I may also quickly touch on the name, one of the key things in thinking about a name of this was not meaning anything. Wanted a word that literally meant nothing, because this community and this group will give that word meaning. So think about some of the other big brands, Instagram or Facebook, or these words, they meant nothing. You're throwing things together and they've now built sort of a community and a brand and you know what they mean. People use Uber as a verb. So that was sort of the guise with it, but it was very important that it truly didn't mean anything. Let's let the people give it meaning. Let's let the everle community come in and say, this is who we are. This is now what everle means.
And for the member, when they log on and they connect, what can you sort of, I guess, since this is an audio medium, describe what their experience looks like?
Yeah. You'll join our platform and you'll be immediately walked through a sequence sort of explaining what is different, what you'll find and how you need to set things up. You'll immediately start connecting with other friends on the platform. Creating mutual connections with people will allow you to see other people's content. A key note about our platform is you won't see anybody's content until you've mutually agreed to connect with each other. You'll have a kind of similar profile, but you, as JT touched on earlier, no like counts, no followers, no trolling, no influencing. Some of the media things you'll notice, no advertising, no content pushing. A lot of the addictive practices have been stripped away. It's just a clean, fun place to be. And then you'll head into our gather communities. And there you'll start searching for communities based on interest, based on need, and start jumping in and engaging with communities and or building communities on your own.
And now, JT, is there going to be a timeline, a newsfeed aspect of all of this in terms of like, how we're so used to when we log on to one of our social media accounts, it's like everything's in either a chronological order or the way the algorithm decides to show us. Tell us about how the interface works in terms of showing the members' content.
We're not going to have any news. We don't want this to be a place where you're going to just consume more of the noise out there, so to speak. This is more for a safe space where you get away from the noise, right? But when it comes to the feed, it will be based on the members that you've connected with, and maybe that's friends, maybe that's family, and whomever. It'll be much more concise, so you can really keep a nice, clean feed of the people that you really care about and you really know. I don't know if you've noticed lately, but if you turn on a Facebook or an Instagram, suddenly you're scrolling to people that you actually don't even know and it was suggested for you. And then most of your feed is suggested people. And the other thing that really kind of makes you feel a little icky is, some of these companies, won't name them, I think we can all guess who they are. They in their terms allow you, or you agree to have your microphone turned down on your phone. And that's why you're getting all these advertisements. The minute you say the word underwear, you're going to get 400 underwear ads, right? They're listening to everything we're doing, and it just feels a little bit not right. And so instead of just complaining, quite frankly, and saying that's all bad and that's all wrong, we just thought, let's go a different direction and give some other people another option, right? And, I think so far, it's been really fun to watch people reconnect. And I always say it's kind of back to the basics, right? People are spending 2 to 2.5 hours on social platforms a day, which is a lot of time. Tessa and I always say kind of like our theme is comparison is the thief of joy, right? And all these platforms, all you're really doing is comparing yourself to other people's lives. And it's always like the grass is always greener and keeping up with the Joneses and all the other sayings that they have. That's what current social media is, and that's what we want to break.
Wow. And speaking of nice, Tess, it almost seems like you built like nice Facebook. And essentially what Facebook was when it first started, it was just really a place for friends to know each other. Then all of a sudden, like, oh, wait, we can make more money if we do ads and algorithms and all this stuff. It seems like not that was a model you were going after, but you were trying to create sort of the antithesis of what we currently see in social media.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. When I describe this initially to people, I say it's the antithesis of modern day social media. It's everything that you would want that you're not getting from modern day social media. And this has come from a couple years truly of talking to our market, talking to people who need this, and understanding what that need truly is. And it really comes down to the basics. Trust has been lost across all of these platforms. They're created, and JT mentioned this earlier, by the same people. It's the same narrative. It's the same storytellers. It's the same people who are controlling our data. And it's time for us as people to take that back. Why not us? Why does it have to be the same big tech guy from Silicon Valley who's just going to create a copycat platform of what they've already built and then a year in say, just kidding, we're selling your data anyway? People don't read the fine print and they shouldn't have to. Look at our privacy policy. It's right there. We will not share or sell your data ever. And that's what people need. Just a space to be themselves and to connect on a human level again. Community is what drives us forward. And there's a loneliness epidemic, and it's very serious and severe. And we need to fix that.
You didn't want to name names, but it's very similar to what Instagram did with their Threads thing. They basically said,
yep,
we're not going to be a news site. This is going to be a place for people to connect. And then, of course, 6 months later, like, oh, there's all this news crap on Threads. So
yeah, of course, they all say that. If you saw what happened with Blue Sky, right? It's decentralized, it's private. Don't worry, everybody. They get a million users, and then they say, oh, by the way, everything's searchable via Google. Well, what are we? what are we talking about? But it's the same people. And so I think we're tired of being duped over and over again. And it's one of the reasons why we won't have news on our platform. I think news that's so untrustworthy these days, but I think people need to retreat from the noise and the storm that's happening on all of these platforms, and a place where they can just take a breath and be. And that's really part of that like mental health component that we've built.
And speaking to the news thing, these other sites are designed to keep your eyes on that site, right? They're designed to keep you there as much time as you possibly can. And so the news that they're feeding you, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It doesn't matter, right? It just matters if you're going to stay fired up and reading the articles. And so it's designed to divide us, right? And when you're so into mental health and you're so into comparison, you're so into all these things that drive me nuts, the divide that's happening is just so out of control. And that is something that it's so funny when you get two people that have completely opposite political spectrums. If you're watching them on the news, or you're watching them on a platform, it is just pure budding. But when you're in person together, there's a handshake, there's a conversation, there's an understanding of both sides, right? There's a compromise in many ways. And so while we can't do that live in person, we can get there as closely as we can with a site that is not going to feed you just trash all the time.
All right. So JT, how do you moderate this? Because I know there are some people, and my wife says I'm one of these people that I just can't help bringing up politics in a public setting. So like every time we go to a party, and we live in Charleston, South Carolina. So I'm a New York liberal carrying around his New York attitude, and I'll run into folks that are more conservative, and I can't help myself. Like I love to engage in it, and not from a place of combativeness. To me, it's just, I'm curious. I want to know why these people think this way and all that. So how do you act the role of my wife in everle in terms of like stopping or hindering folks from turning into that? Because like you said, these members will have control over their own content, so they can, if they wanted to, throw just a random news story up there if they wanted to, right? So JT, tell me how that works.
Much like some of the other sites, look, it's going to be a learning curve, right? We have to understand that. We have to be truthful about that. A lot of it will be community policing, but we do have the blocking features and the reporting features and the people that are going to be monitoring that. But we're hoping it will be a challenge that it turns into more of a conversation in this community policing, while having a parachute behind them of people watching and monitoring will help drive the conversation and the discussion. Yeah, it could be a challenge, but we also feel that the people that are going to pay a membership fee in order to be on this platform are going to have a different level of respect than people that are just signing up with random fake accounts to just go bully people, right? I just think it's going to take a lot of effort to pay a membership fee and go find a thing to cause trouble. And I think it'll be a much more respectable conversation. But Tessa, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, if I may. So, because this is actually a really important question for us and one that we get often. So there's a couple things. One, we do have a paywall, which we do find that people have to really want to be in the community in order to engage within the community. But we have a zero tolerance policy. And you sign up to our community guidelines the second that you get into our platform. If you break those guidelines, you're out. We don't need 1 billion people on this platform. We want the right people in the right community, and they're out there to build this and create a space that is truly authentic and safe. So the key is we're building slowly, we're building thoughtfully, we're curating, and we're making sure that the right people come on board. We are integrating some AI to help us watch for some of these things that can happen and help pull people off the platform if they're not there for the right reasons. And we can do that because we can still keep our members' data private and still keep people safe. And that's the beauty of integrating that AI, right? Is that they can help us monitor. Also, our community admins have the ability to pull people out of groups if they get out of line or they're mistreating other folks. So it's really, really important to us and something we're going to be monitoring very carefully from the beginning.
Well, it's funny you mentioned AI. I was going to bring it up because nowadays most investors won't invest in a company if there's not a component of AI.
Totally. So, yeah, it's the hot thing.
Yeah, it was for 5 minutes. It was metaverse. Then for another 5, it was NFTs, and obviously AI has lived longer, and we're seeing that there's applications for it as opposed to these other technologies. But talk to me about how you're able to build the company from scratch, whether you bootstrapped, went the VC route, angel. because, like we mentioned, it's got to have AI, but they also want to have this engagement. They want to have, although I feel like now the tech industry has backed off, because if you guys recall, it was all about subscriber counts. We need X number of subscribers. And then all of a sudden, Wall Street woke up one day and said, yeah, we don't care about that. We care about profits. So what is it looking for now in terms of from fundraising? Or if you could share just how you built the company from scratch, Tessa.
So when I started the company, it was really like friends and family, and just people who believed in this, mental health and social impact initiative. Since then, we've seen more and more folks get excited. We've strictly raised on angel investors, which has been great. I think avoiding VC specifically, we've definitely talked to some family offices about it. I think also when you're building any company, the beginning is sort of that catch-22. It's the chicken or the egg, right? You're like, I need to build this platform. We need funding to build this platform, but people want, to your point, to see subscribers and traction and revenue. And particularly, as a woman, women get less than 2% of the funding compared to men across the board. And that's a huge challenge, and specifically in the tech space. So managing those hurdles has been interesting, but it's a numbers game. And there's enough people clearly who believe in us and believe in what we're doing, who've been willing to put money in. And now we've got a great pipeline and people who are excited to get involved because they see how big and how important this mission is and how big this entire ecosystem can truly be. I would say compared to when I started to now, I get a lot less, there's no mental health issue, and a lot more, yeah, no, 100%, get it right away. Let's talk.
That's great. Well, let's get into the mental health part. We mentioned it a couple of times here. So how does it work within your membership groups and these subgroups that happen? Walk us through what's in the box, to borrow something from Seven. What's in there that can help in the mental health space?
The mental health piece, it's very important. It's why we built this application, and it came out of a really dark moment in my life. And I was seeking something like this and couldn't find it. So it was really important to integrate that into our application. So when we say that, we say we've built the entire space, just be a more mental health focused space. But in addition, we have mental health resources on demand. So in gather groups, there absolutely are gather communities around, tough topics, or people can come in and actually have real conversations around things that I think sometimes we're unwilling to share face to face. And from that was our hope. And also, again, general topics too about cooking and pasta, whatever it is. But at any time throughout your journey on the platform, you can click our icon. You get crisis resources that we've vetted, in addition to access to a therapist via our partner. And they provide a therapist within 3 days, and they take insurance. So what came out of, and just to back up a little bit, what came out of my dark moment that ultimately led me to search for a platform like this was, if I had had a button I could have pressed where I could have accessed mental health support, I would have pressed it. But the idea of going to Google, searching for this, trying to figure out what I need, not even really knowing, not even understanding, I didn't do it. And I needed it. So that was really important when we embarked on this journey. And JT and I talked through it, is for people to have easy access. Hopefully you don't need it because you're getting the support you need from our community groups. You're getting the support you need from the platform. You're already feeling better about yourself, but it's there for you at any time.
So we talked about how the larger impact in terms of mental health, but people sometimes come on these platforms just for fun. So what?
Yeah.
So
yeah. There's a lot of fun to be had. I use it every day. It's great.
So tell me, would you mind sharing how you would use it, Tessa, to just have the whole time?
Oh, it's great. So for example, I wasn't making it up. There's a pasta group. We have a ton of fun. We're sharing recipes, talking about pasta. There's a Costco group for Costco deals, adventure groups. You like the outdoors, local community groups. There's so many ways you can get on and just enjoy yourself. And then I share with my network of people what I'm actually doing. So like we mentioned before, there is a feed where you can snap photos and share in real time what you're doing, and people can kind of scroll through and see what all of their friends and family are actually up to without the noise and content pushing that happens on other platforms. So the whole goal is like, fill your cup up, right? They've done all these studies as you're scrolling on Instagram of your dopamine response. It's a hit and then it drops very drastically and into dangerous levels. What we've tried to do is create a space where it's just filling up. Like, you're happy, you're seeing things. And if people are sharing something that's tough for them and it's uncomfortable and they're not okay, you're seeing it. And you have the ability to reach out to them and to help people and to engage, which also fills you up. So I think it's all of the above, and it's a great place to just build community, enjoy yourself, get support if you need it, but also just engage with what really matters most.
Nice. JT, you doing damage in that Costco group, or what group are you working out of? Do you have any groups you're part of?
Yes, 100%. I also like the travel deal group. You know, you can go in and you can find travel deals that maybe you don't realize that are there, and you find like-minded, travelers and get tips and where to stay and what areas to go and what airlines have deals right now. And then it can also go to, like, I use this example, and what if you are a young person, maybe from a lower socioeconomic background, who has this amazing idea but has no access to fundraising or even what the next step would be? Like, what do I even do? Let's create a gather group of, maybe there's angel investors out there that are looking for that exact thing. And so if you didn't have the way to connect before, we want to create that for you so you have that way of finding like-minded people. And, it kind of goes back. It's almost like I'm obsessed with, like, the broken window theory, which essentially, if your listeners don't know, it's kind of like the minute you fix a broken window, suddenly the neighborhood starts wanting to fix other windows and painting over things. And it starts this community of, like, rebuilding. And I do fundamentally believe there's a significant amount of people that want to improve the way we communicate and network online. And I do believe because of that, when they're on our platform, they will see that and it will start spreading, and that community building will just continue to grow and grow and grow. And that's where I think the self-policing will come, because no one wants somebody to come in and ruin their great experience.
So JT, you've done a lot in your career. I mentioned, you did a lot of work in entertainment. Why this? Why now? Why everle at this point in your life? Because you could do the countless of other things that you've been working on. Why do you feel like this was important for you to start right here in 2024?
I appreciate that question. It's a great question. And I've been so grateful to be able to work on a lot of things. And I think, my passion has always been kind of building, either like something in entertainment that really creates smiles on people's faces or creates that, that effect on people. But when it comes into business, it was always like, how do I build other people's businesses, and how do, at the end goal is money, right? It's how do you make an exit, or how do you create that wealth, or whatever it is, right? And there's something about when you see a kid suffering, or you see even adults suffering, that this is much more intrinsic value to me. This is much more like needing to happen rather than wanting to happen, right? The why is so important. If you start any business, the why is important, but the why here is so important to me. And I think that that's why it was a no-brainer for me, aside from mental health, just seeing my nieces grow up and seeing what environment this is. And someone's got to put, a wrangle on it a little bit and make sure that we're giving them the right tools to succeed, and make sure they're surrounding themselves with the right people to help them succeed. And so long-winded answer is, I think this intrinsic value really drew me to it.
And Tessa, as a tech founder, you are, you mentioned earlier, being a female founder is not easy. I've spoken to many over the last 4 years where they'll walk into a boardroom and it's all people that don't look like them or understand what they go through. Tell me about your journey as a female founder and what it's meaning for the next generation, because that one of the things I've always learned from people is, like, for people to feel like they can do something, they have to see other people like them do it. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's true. It's like, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball, and then all of a sudden there was all these, Oprah Winfrey, big TV star, and all of a sudden you see this floodgates. So as a female founder, what are you hoping that your work with everle and what you do for the rest of your life will have an impact on the next generation of female tech founders?
It's been a journey, but I've worked in pretty male-dominated environments my entire career, so not one that I have been unaccustomed to. I knew what I was getting into. I think it's important because what we're building is bringing a different perspective to the market from the traditional, white male who's big Silicon Valley and being handed millions of dollars to build something. We've hit roadblock after roadblock for sure, across the board. But I think our resilience and our ability to prevail and our belief in this product has helped us get to the place that we're at. I think future forward, what I've noticed over my journey, which has just been amazing, is there's this group of women now, this collective of women who all just want to bring each other up, right? We're all here for the community. We're all here for the collective. We're like, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. Let's just help each other, because the more we do that, the more we can prevail. And I think that's been a change even over the last 5 years that I didn't see before. Women tended to stay sort of siloed and hang on to whatever power that they got because they felt like they worked so hard to get it. And now there's this big group of us that's like, let's just all win. How about that? And that's the movement and the uprising that's happening that, our hope is that trickles down to the next generation. And to your point, that these young girls see women in power and see women doing things and see women creating change. And they believe they can do it too, starting from a young age where they're being told play with a Barbie instead of a science kit. Like, they need to see women in these positions in order to believe that they can do it themselves. So I think we have it's a really powerful moment. And I think the tides are turning. And I'm so happy to see women helping each other get there. And I hope that it leaves a lasting impression and legacy on generations to come.
Awesome. Tessa and JT, co-founders of everle. Tessa, thanks again for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
And JT, thanks again. Great catching up with you. Good luck with everle.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. Great talking to you.
To find out more about Tessa and JT's platform, go to everle.com. That's everle.com. And that'll do it for another Forbes Books podcast. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. You can always connect with me on X, LinkedIn, or Instagram at Joe Pardavila, or on TikTok at J Pardavila. And please, don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.